He's like, well, if my mom had balls, she would be my dad.
He's always like, WTF, mate? Saturdays are for competition again.
He was 40 points back.
Wakey, wakey, Lando. Wakey, wakey. Look at that gap.
Without Kimi Antonelli, Max wins the championship.
That's like something you'd see in the F1 movie. Is this the world champion hotline? Lando had to win his first against Max. Formula One fans, welcome to the Tyred Boys podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, everyone. We've got the Belgian Grand Prix review for you today. We had Formula 3, Formula 2, and Formula 1 action on the weekend. So plenty to discuss here. But Justin, it's good to see you for another week.
Yeah, we're back for the Spa race weekend. Good to see you as well, Aaron. Excited to talk about it. Traditionally, one of my favorite race weekends. There was a little bit of jeopardy for me in particular. I was really gunning for that bingo square. For once in a long, long time, we got a dry Spa Sunday, so that was pretty nice. I was happy about that bingo square. I'm excited to get into the race weekend. Aaron, let's start off with some quick hitters.
Yeah, we'll jump in first with a little congratulations to Kevin Magnussen, who won his first World Endurance Championship race this past weekend. In the 6 hours of Sao Paulo, he and his teammates won for the BMW squad. So, first big win for budding NASCAR star Kevin Magnussen. But yeah, just nice to see those names popping up from guys who've left Formula One to see them still finding some success.
Yeah, very similar to the Ferrari team with Giovinazzi. Just because they didn't do so hot in Formula One, doesn't mean they can't win elsewhere. So yeah, shout outs to Kevin Magnussen for the World Endurance Championship win.
Yeah, and so then there was also a report this week about a bid that was offered for the Racing Bulls team. It was a $3 billion offer that was put forward by one of Bernie Ecclestone, former F1 head, I guess, president, and some of his people backed with Abu Dhabi money. So the offer was ultimately turned down by the Red Bull organization to sell the Racing Bulls team. I feel like the offers would have to be pretty insane. Well, and they clearly already are if they're going to part ways with the sister team.
Yeah, that's really interesting and not surprising as well. It feels like the two-team system offers them some pretty nice advantages. So yeah, that's interesting. They reject the offer.
Yeah, just a lot more flexibility with that. But then looking at the actual racing here, we have in F1, there was a interview with Toto Wolff this race weekend where he said on Sky Sports that they have the strongest engine, while for whatever reason the Red Bull engine is like the top for the FIA's benchmarking and all for the engine regulations. So there was a lot of discussion about the fact that Red Bull should like appeal to the FIA since Toto's coming out and saying this very, very blatantly and all. And it does, I feel like, seem that the Mercedes is at least on par with the Red Bull engine. But either way, Karun Chandok and some other Sky Sports commentators recommended that Red Bull should reach out to the FIA. Max was asked about it, and he was like, I would love to have an engine upgrade, but it's not in my hands. And he's like, it doesn't look like we have the best engine when we're actually out there and qualifying and all, but what are you gonna do, kind of thing. So I just find it interesting that Toto's coming out and kind of saying that. Obviously, he could just be trying to rile up the opponents. Most likely, that's what it is, because or maybe the power of their engine isn't or doesn't equate to whatever the specific tests that the FIA is doing in terms of looking at the power and whatnot. Maybe it is behind Red Bull in some areas, but overall is a better engine or works better with their system of electronics and battery and all. So there's a lot of components to it, but it was definitely an interesting thing for Toto to come out and say.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit like the, just kind of gamesmanship that goes back and forth between the team principals and such. But yeah, Detective Karun Chandok, um, I'm sure Red Bull really needed his help in that regard. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
totally.
I'm guessing he brought them just a gem of information.
Fresh
So
idea.
exactly, exactly. So just really helping him out. But isn't that like a little bit of favoritism from the F1 commentate team saying like, "Ooh, like yo Red Bull, like we've got our eye out for you." I don't know, man. We should be unbiased, Karun.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. Definitely no biases in this podcast either, towards anyone in particular. But I think just watching the engine upgrades and all, it is pretty interesting to see how that will pan out because obviously it's going to be a progression over the next couple of years. Um, and I also just kind of to some extent feel like there are bigger gaps just than there were. It's a new regulation and everything. I feel like it was so tight at the end of 2025 in the last regulation set that people are so accustomed to it being like just those finest of margins. And at this point, there are some of these like bigger gaps with other developmental things for the different teams. So I think over time it'll probably balance out pretty well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like every Formula One season like acts like it's the same as the other ones when in reality what you learn is like yeah but some years are more competitive and you
Right.
find that it tends to be like we've talked about the end of regulation cycle years or let's say like those two or like 1 to 2 years at the end of a regulation cycle those seem to be the most competitive but it kind of has to build from there. This also goes to the every Sunday has to be a banger kind of type mentality where that comes across in some of these conversations where it seems like a section of fans just want just on the brink racing every year, every race, every track. And unfortunately, that's just not the case. So yeah, maybe a little bit of patience for this regulation set because yeah, we've got to warm into it, man.
Yeah, there's been plenty of previous years where races were not extremely close and competitive, where we had 10-second gaps between P1 and P2 and P3. Like it's just sometimes how it ends up shaking out, and it's too early to really tell. But at the same time, I am curious to see if anything comes from this the engine conversations because Mercedes clearly has the best overall package at the moment, and so um, looking at that, it makes it a little tougher to tell like the actual engine powers and whatnot. So we'll see if
Hmm.
anything comes from it. The only little meme I had, or not really a meme, but just funny thing for around the water cooler was that Franco Colapinto ended up being the only Argentinian on Sunday to score a point, getting his point in the race, and Argentina playing in the World Cup final and getting shut out by Spain. So he had to do it for the home country because the soccer or the football team could not pan out in the World Cup finals. But maybe he should have just saved that point for them and helped them out.
Yeah, that would have been helpful, you know, give your points to your countrymen. Yeah, there was a bit of conversation about some of the drivers being like, yeah, I just hope I could get home to watch the World Cup final. And I was thinking, I was like, oh yeah, like I guess like it is just kind of their day job and they're just like looking forward to like their hobby at the end of the day. Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and a lot of them like have played soccer. They'll play in these like
Sure.
charity soccer things, and like Fernando and Carlos Sainz are both very big into soccer, and it sounds like
Mhm.
Cole Pinto as well, and of course with Spain and Argentina, that the three of them were ready to hit the um, hit the airplane early to get on home to watch, but Colapinto stuck it out to grab his point for the weekend.
Very nice. Yeah, the Europeans and the Spaniards have yeah, just a much bigger interest than, you know, your average American in football as it were. But yeah, all good. Just some funny conversations that I saw. The amount of like George Russell truthers that I see where they're just like where's the championship we were promised? Like what the heck, man? Like that's all really funny. But yeah, mostly there were you know, I would say it was pretty low on the Scoville meter here for the memes on the weekend.
Yeah, I think the majority of the conversation was kind of centered around George or just the racing incidents during the race versus the racing being super exciting and competitive.
Mhm.
Um, there was still some nice intrigue with the virtual safety cars getting thrown out periodically. Um, I think they probably just had a couple and they were just spinning a wheel for how long they waited to throw it out there. Um, but yeah, that ends up shaking things up a little bit here at Spa.
Yeah, just the FIA big wheel of race directing, you know, and it just has like random 10-second penalty, like double VSC, you know, just like all like these really fun events that they could throw in.
Well, there was no rain, so they had to they're like, we got to have something, and had to mix it up.
Yeah, if it wasn't rain on track, it was just like a couple pieces of gravel, you know, that they were like, wait.
Too dangerous, but we'll
But
let
yeah,
you drive up in the
I get
rain.
it. I get it.
Yeah,
You know, everybody coming down real hard on the FIA. But yeah, I'll be honest. Like when I'm watching the race, I'm just like, what's going on? What is this
yeah.
for? Like, is the fix in? Like, who's getting paid here?
I felt like that was kind of the one of the tough things with this race as well, though, was the TV direction really was not showing us very much of what actually was happening or the causes of things, or we're getting like just the front runners, seeing them driving a couple seconds apart, lap after lap, and then they'd bring us the replay of, oh, this thing happened, instead of just showing it when it happened. So we're sitting there wondering about, oh, is the VSC for gravel? Is there someone in a wall somewhere? Like what is going on?
Well, and I kind of finally knew how you felt in all of your Max victory lap years, where you would come onto the pod and be like, "Yeah, man, fun race, but I would have liked to see Max like driving his car." That's kind of how I felt about Kimi Antonelli, where I was like, "Oh man, I just want to see Kimi driving his car." You know, we didn't get a
Yeah.
whole lot of that, even though he
No,
won the
he
race.
yeah, because when he wasn't in the lead, like they weren't really showing him, and then when he was in the lead, he was a little too far ahead, so you would catch him like coming into a corner. But yeah, I mean there were other things that were missed too, like the double overtake take by Colapinto and Gasly on Lawson, who then battled back against Gasly. That was a like one of the better or more interesting overtakes of the day, and we didn't see that live. So I feel like every now and then the TV direction just has a little bit of an off day as well, um, but yeah, we didn't get to see Kimi doing too much of his race this weekend.
All good. I'll take some of the nice, scenery shots of the Ardennes forest. Just before we move into some of the feeder series and some of the racing, just wanted to talk a little bit about the circuit and the race itself. It is one of my favorite circuits, one of my favorite races, like I've said. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about it in general. One of the bits of trivia that I find so fun about Spa is it was part of the original World Drivers' Championship. So that was in 1950. So FIA Formula One, I think, was racing for like 3 or 4 years, but it wasn't until a few years in that they added like the driver specific championship. And that's where like the popularity kind of really begin to take off, I guess you could say. So in that, I think it's really cool that Spa was one of the original 7 tracks slash races that were on that 1950s calendar. It includes Silverstone, the Indy 500 was on that calendar. So yeah, just a really really fun set of races for that original year. So I think that's really neat for Spa. The kind of angle that nobody really talks about, especially in modern Formula One, especially since Radion's been changed now, where the spectator seats got pushed way back, and the wall that used to be at the top of the hill, it's just not there anymore. And that was there even up to it might have been like 2020 or 2021 that they changed that,
I
right?
think it was 2020 when it was changed, because 2019, I believe, would have been when the last incident with Jules Bianchi was there.
Gotcha. Okay, right. So very recent change. I think that's created a decent amount of security for that turn as well. So over the years, the circuit's gone through a lot of changes. I mean, for a long time, this was one of the most dangerous circuits. There was a period, I forget what year it was, but Sir Jackie Stewart got a bunch of drivers to boycott the race because it was too dangerous. This is one of the circuits, unfortunately, where, like you said, with Jules, he is not the only driver that has lost their life at this circuit. And I think that is the unfortunate but ever present aspect of the Belgian Grand Prix is while the circuit is so beautiful, it is one of the more, let's just say, complex races to have finished over the years. It used to be like a long sweeping race up through the hills. It's changed a lot. There's like it looks way more like a modern circuit now, with a bunch of turns and whatever. So I think that's really fascinating that it's gone through a bunch of changes. It's one of the races that has been I would say I can't think of the word, but like a central location for safety debates and improving facilities for both spectators and drivers alike, because unfortunately some spectators have lost their life as well at some of these races. So yeah, this is one that has taken a while to get right. So that's why I feel like it is such a gift that we are able to have it on the calendar, because it easily could have just like fallen by the wayside. No, it's too dangerous. We don't want to think about that, because like we said, as recent as 2019. So I do believe that it's a gift that we get to race here still, considering kind of the darker history that this circuit has, where like there's some where there's barely ever been like a crash, or there's only like a safety car or two. But this being one of the oldest races on the championship calendar, these things are going to happen. I want to talk a little bit about the circuit as far as like the corner names. So you could do a lap around Spa and name all of the corners. One of the things that I think is really interesting on the broadcast now, it's depending on which layout you're looking at, it's turn 9. It's after Rivage,
Mhm.
and it's that left-hander that everybody calls the corner with no name. I don't understand why. Like Alex Jakes calls it Jackie X corner. Like like he's trying to build that up. But for many years, that turn used to be called Speaker's Corner. And the reason
Mm.
for that was it was the first opportunity that the commentators could see the cars again after they went down the Kemmel Straight. So it's like
Ah,
where they see them like pop back up from wherever the old commentator booth used to be.
gotcha.
So
Okay.
I'm starting hashtag name turn 9, speaker's corner. Every other turn has a fun, historic, awesome turn name to say. And then we just have to go through and be like, the corner with no name. It's lame. Let's call it speakers again, please. And then just another interesting aspect about Spa, bro, it is one of the mainstays of like every top championship and every top format that you think
Mhm.
of, like other than IndyCar, obviously. But if it's like if it's a European based or at least a European adjacent series, they race here. World Endurance Championship, GT, GT2, and GT3. I'm pretty sure Porsche Cup races, like the list just goes on and on. So this is just home to just racing period. So that's why I love Spa. Just a little bit of the history there for you as well.
I'll throw one little I'll put the cherry on top here, but I think my interesting fact about it is that it is the only circuit where they do not do a cool down lap after the race, and they just turn the wrong way down the pit lane to come back because the lap's way too long to for everyone to loop around at half pace. It would be such a long lap to get everyone back around. So they just have them
That's
turn
really
around at
fun.
the pit exit.
Very nice. I didn't know that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's fun.
Yeah. So definitely a cool circuit to get to talk about. And before we jump into the feeder series here, we just want to remind you, if you're following along, listening along, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with any of your friends who are interested in Formula One and joining the conversation. And we appreciate you all listening and spending time with us.
New episodes after every race weekend. We'll be looking forward to Hungary next. We hope to see you there. Thank you very much. Back to the show.
So jumping into this feeder series here and Formula 3, one of the kind of jumping off points here for the Formula 3 weekend was they had a pretty insane qualifying session, which ended up seeing 11 drivers receiving grid drop penalties after qualifying. They basically every team, all 30 drivers, had the same thought in mind for when they were going to go out and start their qualifying. So the grid was like just a mob going around the circuit trying to jostle for positions and everything to get on their hot laps, and so ends up with a bunch of impeding penalties, some just like unsafe driving things. There was an incident, I think, in the midfield that a couple of the cars had a collision. It was just chaotic. It was just very haphazardly done by all of the F3 teams. So there was some long conversations, 11 grid penalties that kicked off the race weekend heading into the sprint.
Yeah, and this is where I'll just be honest. I don't often get to watch the feeder series qualifying, but I did have a feeling at the start of the sprint race where you just hear like a whole bunch of last names that you haven't heard in a long time. And you're just like, oh man, that qualifying must have been interesting. It's like, yeah, that's because everybody was, mob mentality running around there.
Yeah, it was a mess. So at the end of it, we did have Freddie Slater take pole, but there was a very mixed up grid to get started. Our championship leader Ugo Ugochukwu was down in P9 after the qualifying and everything. So a very interesting start to the weekend. But going into the reverse grid sprint race, um, we had Ugachukwu and Freddie Slater, the two top in the championship, making contact with each other early and kind of taking each other out of contention for the sprint race. Um, Gene Nakamura got past Bataware pretty quickly at the start, and then it was a pretty strong drive overall from him. A safety car restart partway through, and a good defense from Nakamura. So overall, once the race got going and through that first little stretch, it definitely settled down quite a bit. And Nakamura takes P1 with Badaware and Claro behind him.
Yeah, really interesting race from Nakamura. So late stage in the race, I don't know if it was the last lap or if we were like 2 from the last lap or whatever, but going into the La Source hairpin, it was like braking instability because I don't think he locked up, but Nakamura like wobbled going into the corner. I thought he was toast down the Kemmel straight. I was
Yeah,
just waiting for it, like, okay, here comes Bataware, just down into Lake Calm. Like I thought it was coming, and he never got overtaken. So I was like, damn, okay, props to Nakamura because honestly, I thought he was toast. The way people had been getting overtaken down the Kemmel Straight. Like if you have somebody behind you going up Radion, you're done. And I just thought that was going to be the case for Nakamura.
yeah, but he put on a good defense. He took the inside line basically the entire way down the Kemmel Straight. He just hugged that inside as long as he could. Late braking and holds off Bataware behind him. But yeah, it was pretty consistent that drivers were the Kemmel Straight was catching drivers out, and the primary overtaking spot for the circuit.
Unless you're Lando Norris, but we can talk about that later. The other thing that I thought was interesting for the Formula 3 race was double podium for Rodden with Bataware and Clairo. So just a heap of points for the Rodden outfit after the sprint race. But yeah, definite deserved victory there for Nakamura holding off the Bataware. But yeah, I'm curious what were your thoughts for the feature, because that had a little bit more action to get into, especially the start there for Slater.
Yeah, and Slater he has the tough start off the line, drops back pretty quickly, and then we see just a lot of kind of chaos in the midfield. Ugachukwu gets caught up with Teofil Nile. Ugachukwu goes off, comes back on. Nile bumps him. Nile loses his front wing and gets a puncture and has to take an early pit stop. So it was pretty chaotic. I think the most interesting thing for me from the feature race was just watching the drivers and how they managed their tires throughout, because we saw at one point Yamakoshi was almost just like letting Rivera and Slater by to just not be the lead guy and to hang in that slipstream, preserve your tires, utilize the DRS, but like he did not want to be out front breaking the headwind on the way up through and down the Kemmel Straight. So I think that really benefited both him and Rivera later in the race. Slater really had to fight back to retake that lead. And I think that definitely did a number on his tires for later on in the race. So I was impressed by Rivera and Yamakoshi to kind of play that long game, and take care of their tires and just utilize that to their advantage late on in the race to come back through.
Yeah, that's a really good observation because it did seem like the drivers that were getting caught in the packs, they just could not move. They would be like they would be plus or minus a position, but in the larger context of the race, they weren't going anywhere. And up and down that grid, you just saw packs of these. It was like 4 or 5 cars just all getting stuck together. So yeah, really nice strategy from Yamakoshi to basically just take a different angle to the race and was able to get some points for it. The move that I thought was crazy, and I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Is it Gladich?
Uh, they say it like Guadish, but
Right. Okay.
I
Gotcha.
but I'm not exactly sure based on spelling and all, but I hear them saying Guadish.
Okay, that's fair. But you know what driver I'm talking about
Yeah.
then was into Lake Home. I forget who it was on, but he went really wild down the inside. So that was a really nice move. Pretty sure that was just for like midfield points or whatever, but just a nice opportunity from Guadich there.
Yeah, and he had a pretty strong race. He and his teammate Tato Kato, both I believe had been on the receiving ends of some of the grid drop penalties from qualifying. So battling back up and picking up some good points for their team there. They had a solid day, and yeah, definitely a nice overtake. Seeing the F3 cars and all going up through Radion and Eau Rouge and just up the hill. It's fun seeing them all side by side because there were all those little like clumps of drivers together. So
Hmm.
um, very fun to watch. Seeing them come up the top of the hill and like occasionally if someone runs wide, like seeing them like keep control of the cars, it was pretty impressive at those speeds. So some solid driving across the grid.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's that speaks to the size of the car and the size like in relation to the size of the track. There's
Yeah.
just so much room on track for you to shift around and try different angles and they were, going for like over unders and things like this. So just so much room to just fight it out.
Yeah, and especially with cars that are all on relatively even playing field, they can battle quite a bit more with that extra room. Um, but my kind of biggest notes from the weekend was the way it just shook out with points. So Freddie Slater getting that P3 in the feature race, and he had a pretty decent weekend, picking up 17 points there um, on Ugachukwu and bringing it within one for the title fight since Ugo just lost out and got 0 points in both the sprint and the feature race.
Yeah, tough for him, but as an enjoyer of the competition, it's nice to have it be such a dead heat.
Oh yeah, it's a good title fight. The two of them are definitely stretching the lead to everyone else, but they have 3 race weekends left within 1 point. It's going to be exciting to see how it shakes out here at the end. Um, between Ugachukwu and Slater, but you called it back when Slater was like riding P5, P6 in the championship at the time. So he's been coming on strong here the last couple of weekends.
Yeah, and it's just been a really fun battle between the two of them. So yeah, I'll be excited for the excited to look ahead to the next Formula 3 race weekends that we have. I'm excited. I mean, talk about a title fight. I'm excited to talk about the Formula 2 race weekend. It wasn't crazy, and I don't want to jump ahead, but the feature race, the beginning where it's Kamara v Solov off the start. They're both competitively paced. I thought that was going to be very exciting. They end up kind of like falling away from each other, but I think the Kamara v Solov battle is shaping up to be a pretty fun one. So I'm excited to talk about some of the Formula 2 results. What were some of the storylines that you had your eye on in the sprint race?
So yeah, just going through the sprint race, I was kind of keeping an eye on on Montoya, Sebastian Montoya. He qualified P10. He's starting on pole position, and he just didn't quite have the pace to keep up front, and he just kind of slowly starts sliding down the grid throughout the race, especially at the end after the restart. Solov gets past Montoya, kind of pushes him wide a little bit, and then he loses out and drops from P4 down to P9 pretty quickly. So a tough way for that to go for Montoya, but Solov had a very impressive drive, like looked strong coming through the field, and then making that very decisive, like clean overtake on Montoya there at the end of the race to pick up P4. That was definitely a important moment for him in the title fight as the leader to make sure he's picking up as many points as he can. And of course, picking up a couple more than Kamara did there in the sprint race as well.
Yeah, the note that I have here for Montoya was he was just getting bullied by Solov all day. Like it's brutal to see somebody start on that pole position and just get knocked back, just
Yeah,
knocked down the grid. That's really rough. I have a feeling that Montoya will do his best to take that one on board and try and learn as much as he can, because yeah, that's you should at this level be able to capitalize on that front of the grid start, like basically no matter like what car you're in, no matter what team you're in. So that was pretty rough to see for Montoya. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and didn't amount to anything, like it wasn't contact, the Bennett spin into
mm,
Blanchimont like towards the end of the race that caused the
that was a
safety
weird
car.
one.
That was scary, bro. Like
Yeah,
it just turned around on him and he was spinning. That was crazy.
yeah, and fortunately the other drivers were aware and safely made it around him and all. But yeah, not a
Hmm.
very high speed area for that kind of loss of control to come. And then we also had Lawrence Van Hoopen's crash where his car was on fire afterwards, like just a little bit underneath. So nothing too crazy. He got out quickly and safely, but his car was messed up from his incident, red flagging the race, and then bringing it back out. I found it I didn't realize that the F2 rules in regard to red flags were different as well. They don't get like to freely change tires and whatnot under the red flag conditions. So coming back out, everyone still had to do their normal pit stops and everything, which kind of threw some, I think, wrenches into some of the team's plans.
Yeah, definitely. But just glad the drivers were okay in that regard. Because yeah, Van Hoopen's in the second race was pretty rough as well. But I have to say that gave, because that was late stage when that happened. Kamara's restart was stellar. You
Yeah.
know, he made up a lot of ground in that regard. So yeah, kind of gave him the opportunity there. But yeah, really fun feature race, I would say. Not a whole lot going on. But yeah, fun feature race. I think looking at the just thinking about the start, one of my notes is Solov and Dunn get the best start. You see Solov flying around. I think it might have been Bogdanovich or his teammate that are stopped on track. Solov
Mm.
gets a good run down. So yeah, just some good racecraft, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. The stalling on the start is a tough spot to be in, but for everyone to get through that cleanly is impressive. But the other note that I just had was from Kamara with the points he picked up in the sprint race and then the feature race pole position win fastest lap points. He ends up picking up an extra 10 points on Solov in the championship, and then picks up 21 points on Gabriele Mini. So slowly chipping into that lead and turning it into a real competitive title fight with those really top four there from from Dunn up through Solov, all within a decent range. But Kamara 9 points back from Mini in second at the moment.
Yeah, not terrible. I think we'll need, I think Kamara fans will need, maybe one more solid, and not just like full race weekend. We just need a solid race or two, and then we'll be like confidently in the fight. Right now, I think the safe money is probably still on Solov or Gabriele Mini. But yeah, with what we've seen from Kamara, I definitely wouldn't count him out. So yeah, I'm going to be excited to see the closing stages of the Formula 2 season.
Yeah, and 6 races to go. But Kamara, I think one of the most impressive things about him for me is how quick he can be in that 1 lap pace. He's put himself on pole position a number of times throughout the season so far. He is putting himself in the best spot he can. He has some growing to do with those like midfield battles and wheel to wheel racing, but like on purely on that 1 lap pace, he shows he has it, and so there's plenty of room to grow. But that's something that you if you have it naturally, I feel like that is a super important part of being a successful racing driver. So he's got a lot of the pieces of the puzzle here.
I would agree with that. Yeah, if I didn't know any better, I would say it's easy to be quick when you're in an Invicta. Those cars just look OP, like both for Dirksen and Kamara. Like honestly, doing
They're
the
strong.
double in Belgium, I mean, impressive.
Yeah. And I think the only other like big note with the F2 weekend was kind of similar, like race strategy and all like is interesting here at Spa for the F2 and F3 grids with how you have to take care of your tires and try some different strategies with what tire you go with initially and switch on to and all. Because at the end of the day, like that is one of the biggest differences is being able to keep your tires in a good spot. So Kamara dropping off pole initially, similar to what we saw with Freddie Slater and Rivera in the F3, like to maintain his tires and all until later in the race. It was a strong strategy throughout the weekend.
Yeah, and another, what would you say, another like uncommon strategy that we saw was Solov super soft, try and get the jump on some of the runners. I think they fell off a little bit compared to some of the other drivers there. But yeah, like you're saying, there's a few different strategies available. Teams can try different options.
Yeah, which is always interesting to see, and the F2 pit stops are fun. Like those pit crews are really working in the pit stops. So seeing them have a clean one like Kamara got was very important for getting him back into the lead of the race there. But yeah, a lot of excitement. 6 races left in the F2 calendar. So we'll have them back pretty soon here in Budapest, just this upcoming weekend.
All right, so now I'm just gonna ask just the worst question. Just the worst question. So, thinking of the Formula 2 pit stops,
Mm.
where each gunman has to take off the tire and put the tire back on, and then they like raise their gun when they're done.
Mm.
Each tire kind of gets finished like at a different time, and then they go. Where like in Formula One, it's like
Yeah.
and then they're gone. It feels like the F2 is like, it's like a little, and then we're moving. So, do you think your only enemy as a gunman is the other pit crew members? Like, do you think it is in your best interest to be faster than the other guys?
I think everyone's just trying to be as fast as possible. I don't know if there is uh any mentality of like if you do it at the same exact time, then it's like looks smoother, maybe it's easier on the driver. I think your goal is just get the tire off and get the new one on as quick as you can. And in my opinion, your biggest enemy in that is just the wheel nut. Like, or your gun. Like, is this thing gonna come off easy, or am I gonna be like fighting with it to get the tire off? Outside of that, I feel like you're just trying to go as quick as you can, and there's not much other rhyme or reason to it.
That's totally fair. I'm just thinking about like how do they get promoted from those teams like up to the F1 teams? It's like, well, you're 5/10ths quicker than your other gunmen. We want you. You were the quickest gunman on that team. That's all I'm thinking. And
Yeah.
then here's the follow-up awful question is if you're a pit crew member, do you think you like specialize in the back left? Like, you better not put me front right.
Oh. I feel like the back tire. I feel like you'd want to just keep the same guys on the same, like, just consistency, so that like
Right.
you don't get that many opportunities to practice like a real live pit stop. So I think keeping the same guy in the same spot as much as possible is probably optimal. Um, I don't know, with Lewis's pit crew, maybe they'll have a new front right guy this coming weekend. You never know. But I think for the most part with F2, you're trying to keep things as consistent as possible so that you're just being as efficient as you can be. So you probably do specialize in like back left tire, or front jackman, rear jackman. That's one of the best jobs, but that's also tough.
Yeah. But you get my meaning where it's like these guys it what looks simple is like that's probably a highly specialized position and they really don't fuck around on other positions.
Oh yeah, and
Right.
you as the front guys, like you also have to be prepared. Like if you're, I mean, there's plenty of instances in these F2 races and F3 races where people's front wings get damaged and all. You have to be ready to swap out a front wing and everything quickly too. You got your little Allen wrench that you
Mhm.
undo the thing and take off the nose. So I definitely think that there's a lot of like specialization that goes into that. They probably have like tryouts at the beginning of the season, I imagine, of the pit crew to be like, all right, who's the quickest for getting a tire off and on. But I think the front and back tires are also different sizes. So with that, I'm sure there's maybe you want a more muscly guy at the back because the tire's a little heavier. You want him to be able to move it a little more easily. I don't know.
Yeah, and the front tire guys sometimes have like confidence issues because I know they're like, their tires aren't as heavy, that kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, I work on an F3.
I could totally do the back tires if I wanted
Exactly.
to.
Exactly.
I just
All right, so
specialize in front left.
exactly. So that's my horrible question there for you. Just let's just speculate on the positions.
Well, now we'll have this ready to go when we get someone from an F2 pit crew on the podcast to talk about their job and how we can also join pit crews. Um, but we'll slide from the F2 calendar and weekend into our Belgian Grand Prix recap here. A couple of just initial notes that I wanted to bring up before we really get into it.
Hmm.
Were well, main one being we're seeing upgrades coming in. The Racing Bulls, though, did not have all of the upgrades available to both cars. So we saw, because Arvid Lindblad finished up ahead of Liam Lawson in Silverstone, that he got the first shot with the new uh, parts on the car. So some differences with the Racing Bulls that they'll look to bring those parts to Liam's car as quickly as they can. But yeah, it was. I think I saw that the Racing Bull's team principal was like, "Yeah, just put them on both cars." They're like, "Well, we can't do that. Like, we don't have enough to put them on both cars." So we'll see that Racing Bull's car develop, and it was clearly made a difference with the upgrades because Lindblad had a really solid race weekend here as well, beating out Lawson again.
Yeah, so clearly the upgrades working, and it seems like they'll have the second car package on for Hungary, so only one race lag between the two.
Yeah, so nothing too bad. And of course, we're still waiting on the Aston Martin upgrades, which will be coming in Hungary as well, I believe. So we'll see how that shakes out. I saw this one of those random convoluted tweets. It's like the last time Spain won the World Cup, the and this happened and that happened. Then Fernando Alonso won the next race 10 years ago. And so all of the things lined up again. So Alonso with the upgrade, gonna win in Hungary. You heard it on Twitter first because I am not claiming that.
And so it's like a win. He's gonna win, is what the prophecy foretells.
That is what if history repeats itself, then Alonso would win this weekend.
Whoa. Okay, very nice. Yo, hit me with that Cauchy link. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so it was 2010. Spain goes to extra time 0-0. Opposing team is reduced to 10
I
men.
read the
Spain
tweet. You're
scores,
fine.
yada yada yada. But yeah, so an interesting potential history repeating itself when Fernando wins in Hungary.
If you get this one, I'll say like adjacently correct because you're basically like backing this guy. So you're like you're backing the right contender. I'll forgive you for the Lindblad take that you thought would disappear, but I'm bringing it back right now because didn't you say Lindblad was going to end up on the podium?
Oh, I did say Lindblad was going to end up on the podium. So yeah, did not quite pan out.
You were like, wait, what I say about Lindblad is like, I've got the receipts, bud.
Oh yeah, definitely like full chest behind it too. No joking at all.
Hey, that's fine. I mean, if I see something in my dreams, I usually take it as it's just fact.
Dreams, don't let your dreams be dreamed. Just you got to turn them into reality. I just didn't do enough to help Lindblad out this weekend.
Yeah, you didn't like manifest hard enough or something, you know?
It's all my fault.
Right,
Uh,
right.
But one of the other just pre-race notes was there were a number of drivers who ended up taking grid penalties for replacing engine parts. We saw not Piastri. We saw Norris with a grid drop. Both of the Aston Martins. I believe who was the other ones? Hajar, of course, had the 30 place grid drop penalty. And then Signs also ended up taking a 10 place grid penalty. So a lot of drivers burning through their engine components, but it panned out pretty well in qualifying for the Red Bull team to have Hajar make it into Q3, be able to give Max the tow through the third sector of the track to get him up to the P2 qualifying. Um, but I was pretty stressed during that qualifying session, seeing how close they got. The camera angles did not make it look good, but apparently it was exactly what they needed.
Yeah, according to Max, it was perfect. So I was like, that's awesome. Hadjar,
Yeah,
my boy.
it was stressing me out though. See, I'm like, they look so close. Which, what if they both dodge the same way?
I would hope that
I'm sure it's well coordinated, but just in the moment watching it was stressful. But Hajar, yeah, pulling Max along through the last sector to get him up to that P2. He said he was probably on pace for like P6 without that tow. So some nice teamwork while Red Bull is taking the engine penalty there and the back of the grid drop.
I mean, it's crazy. Like he's dead on. Like if you look at the Q3 times, everybody is in the 144s. Kimi Antonelli is 144.3. Everybody else is like 144.8. So Kimi Antonelli's like 5 tenths faster than everybody in qualifying, and then P2 to like 7, they're like all the exact same time.
Yeah, it was extremely close qualifying. So yeah, huge help from Hajar to get those extra toes for Max in both of his runs in qualifying for Q3, before just going back into the pit lane and taking it in for the weekend to drop down 30 positions at the start of the race. But um, if you want, we can jump here into the winners and losers if you have any, unless you have any other qualifying bits and pieces.
No, I think that about covers it. But how about you give us the winners here for the weekend? Because I have a sneaky suspicion ours are going to be very similar.
Sounds good, but I'll jump right in there just to say Hajar was one of my winners on the week. Going from last on the grid up to P6 was a really solid race. The new engine and new components obviously help with that to some extent, but he really made a nice way through the field, put himself in a really good position at the end of the day to pick up some solid points and make the most out of that grid penalty race.
Definitely agree. And yeah, George Russell was kind enough to just step out of the way, make it just one car easier for Isak Hadjar.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, really strong drive from him. My other winner on the weekend here was Leclerc, who had a really strong drive, but also benefited a little bit from the lucky timing with the virtual safety car. But he kept himself in a good spot, even though he was able to take advantage of that and leapfrog to the front. A P2 and like just strong pace throughout was impressive from him and the Ferrari team.
Totally agree. That's what I had as my team winner for the weekend. Ferrari. They are looking like the best team. They may not have the fastest car, but I think they're looking like the best team and like on trajectory to probably overtake Mercedes in at least the constructors championship. If we're having reliability issues for the Mercedes car where it's like basically only one of them is going to finish, it seems like every weekend. Well, that may do fine for the drivers' championship, but there's no way you're going to be able to fight against two cars that are getting like above P5 points almost every event out. Like that's going to get really hard to contend with. And even if Ferrari never wins a race, they will win the constructors championship. You know, like
Yeah,
if weekends continue to look like this, they're even able to overcome just a pelting of penalties for Lewis Hamilton. They literally tried to throw everything at him, and they you still can't hold me down. Hamilton finishes what it was like P4.
yep,
He still gets a heap of points, so that's amazing. And then from a strategy kind of let's say a special teams standpoint, they nail the double stack in the pits.
mm,
They get the virtual safety car. They make the heads up call. Hey, let's pit. Hey, let's pit both of our cars. Let's get our pit stops, done and dusted. So yeah, I think Ferrari just looked really good. They were operating really well. Both drivers on pace. So yeah, Ferrari's looking really good.
yeah. And I mean, if things keep going this way, the only way the drivers' championship doesn't pan out is if George keeps getting the bad luck. If we're seeing a Mercedes car go out each time, I mean, Lewis has jumped George this week into P2 in the drivers' standings. So if Kimi Russell gets hit with the bad luck bug, then that is definitely not out of reach at this point in the season. So the constructors title fight is still definitely on, but Kimmy's only 50 he's or no 45 points ahead of Lewis at this point. Like it's not untouchable by any means. Um, so I definitely agree. I think Ferrari had a really just strong overall weekend. Um, for the losers, I could only really come up with George. Like he just had the unfortunate like power issues throughout the weekend for one, which we saw in qualifying as well. Like that was coming up pretty frequently. He wasn't getting the same top speeds and pace as Kimi was. Um, they were like, is it driving style? Is it the car? Seeing that he like did not have power or as much power as he should have right about when he had the incident with Lewis, it just sounds like it was a kind of unfortunate combination for the weekend for him. um and so going out on lap one and the other bad luck he's had, he's definitely um gonna have to be strong mentally to continue to mount this title challenge here with his teammate Kimi.
Yeah, with the run that Lewis Hamilton is having, with the run that Kimi Antonelli is having, I I think it's going to be really tough to mount a championship fight for George if this stuff keeps happening. I know like some early race contact, like it's not really his fault. It's not really Lewis's fault. Looked like just a lap one racing incident to me. So like,
Yeah.
no hate either way, but it is his feeling where he's like, "Oh man, I just get bad luck all the time." It's like, well, yeah, and only one or two more times, and he'll just be out of the conversation. Charles Leclerc will have overtaken him. Max will have moved up. I mean, look at his performance on the weekend as well. He
Yeah.
thought he was going to be moving backwards in the race. He's still on the podium. So Max in that Red Bull is fighting. Even Isak Hadjar, I mean, like there's just a lot of quick cars around George right now where his view of a championship fight, I think, is getting more narrow and more narrow.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. So, tough luck for George, but the across the rest of the grid, I didn't really see anyone that I could really pick out as a specific like other loser team or anything. Especially towards the back of the field, like the Williams cars, the Cadillacs, the Aston Martins. Like there's just not a lot that you can say at the moment with those teams at all. There's I think some developmental things that they're gonna have to just keep bringing upgrades to the car and keep working on these improvements to kind of bring themselves back into contention. Um, but yeah, otherwise, I think George definitely lost out the biggest on the weekend. Um, but the race definitely had its fun and interesting moments too. I was excited when Max took the lead at the start of the race. I knew it wasn't gonna last, but I was like, at least he led for a mini sector.
Hey, that's totally fair. I'll give you a couple unfortunate angles here for the weekend, not just George. So I looked at the Haas race weekend, and what was interesting about them, so they brought an upgrade package to Spa that included a whole new front wing. Unfortunately, though, qualifying would prove they did not have the pace. I think they were both out in like Q1 and then like a P16 in Q2 as well for the Haas team. So upgrade package come to the track with them hasn't really panned out. So I think in that regard they would consider themselves they probably feel like they're behind now. So in that regard, Haas, would have liked to have dialed in their upgrade package maybe just a little bit better. So I think Haas is struggling just a little bit, in this European part of the season, and then to find a driver that lost out. I actually had to look at Gabriel Bortoleto and wonder, okay, so where was Hulkenberg? Hulkenberg had a gearbox issue in qualifying, hampers his chance at what was actually like a pretty solid race weekend for the Audi outfit. Because if you look at Bortoleto, he had really good pace, finishes up in the points, but I think that lack of performance in qualifying leads to Hulkenberg not being able to maximize that package, so he ends up still not being able to lock up his first point of the year in a car where it's like he should reasonably be able to. Like Bortoleto has a handful of points, so a little bit of technical issues causing a bad weekend for Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah, and that's fair. Like he had so many times early in the season where he was finishing just that P11 just outside of the points. He very easily could have picked up a few, but yeah, so far Bortoletto's been the only one with the Audi to have that extra little bit of luck on the weekend. Maybe though this coming weekend, I'm sure Nico will go for an engine change after the gearbox issue and all, and then maybe he'll have a little bit more oomph behind the car for the upcoming race weekend, barring any grid penalties and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a good shout for Hulkenberg because I similarly was like, oh, I saw him back there and I wasn't quite sure why, so I appreciate that info.
Just a little bit of technical difficulties in that regard. So yeah, I'm curious. Let's kind of finish out the chat here with any like team notes or driver notes that we wanted to get into that kind of weren't included in some of the other talk.
Yeah, I mean the other thing with the Haas was Ocon and Behrman having some contact early in the race. That was definitely kind of hampered them as they went out throughout. But the um, the pace that like and just looking kind of at the other incidents, that was something that was interesting to me. We saw um, Lewis get the 5 second penalty from his contact with George on lap one, which I think most people agree that probably shouldn't have been a penalty. I mean, for one, it's lap one, where I thought that they are supposed to give a little bit more leniency. But then seeing a relatively similar incident later with Leclerc and Piastri, and Leclerc does not get penalized. I thought that was just kind of a tough spot for Lewis to be in. I felt like he didn't do anything to really cause that or call it definitively him to blame versus just a racing incident on lap one. But otherwise, he had some really great pace throughout the race weekend. I think Oscar definitely had a little bit of a tougher time after his contact with Leclerc, probably carrying a little damage. But the McLarens were. It's fun to get to see them race without papaya rules, isn't it?
It's really fun. They can really get after it.
Yeah, the back and forth between the two McLarens with Piastri getting back past Norris, confusing all of the commentators. Like, why would he do that? It's like because he's faster at that
Mhm.
point. But yeah, Lando also just the grid penalty and then having the tough pit stop definitely was tough for him on the weekend. Um, Red Bull is slowly chipping away at that P3 that McLaren has, and Max is now right on the heels of Piastri in the Drivers' Championship after these past couple race weekends. Um, so, not the ideal position for them, but I feel like uh, with those different incidents, the McLaren still had some pretty good pace. We saw Lando looking pretty quick throughout. So I would anticipate next weekend that they'll be back to kind of their normal running.
we had Andrea Stella hitting us with the, well, hindsight's 2020. Yeah, it would have been a good idea for us to take advantage of the virtual safety car. He had this whole cope, for why they didn't pit Lando when every other team, every other driver pits onto the safety car. It's like, mate, just
Yeah.
just just do what your gut tells you, please. Because I do think that was part of why Lando's race, like, overall gets hampered. He was the effective race leader, and then you look, it's like, well, he hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think McLaren, even though they had the grid drop, like, they still looked like they were in contention for, at least maybe I'll say it like this, at least maybe Lewis Hamilton's position for at least one of the
Yeah.
cars. So yeah, really, really unfortunate from the McLarens, and yeah, I just hate the hindsight is 2020. Like, right after the race finished, it's like, mate, do the
Yeah.
right thing, please.
Well, and especially if you're looking at weather and everything and you're going, we don't see any rain potentially coming in and all, like the odds of another opportunity later in the race for a VSC or safety car, like, yeah, it's Spa, there's potential, but without the rain factor, I feel like you have to just make that call when it happens and yeah, take advantage of it. Instead of going, no, we'll wait for the one that we're hoping for later later down the road.
Yeah, waiting for like an opportunity that fits like a glove, and then the race is just over. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, yeah, and it's even extra hurt when you see him lapping what, P8, P9 with the little purple speed symbol next to his name. It's
Mm-hmm.
like he's the fastest on track, and he's just stuck behind Isak. Come
Yeah.
on.
It's a tough spot to be in, and like with Piastri too. Like if Lewis had gotten a unsafe release penalty from his pit stop, Piastri would have leapfrogged him into P4. So they were right there, and are just a little bit behind the Ferraris there in pace, and this weekend the Red Bulls as well. Um, but other teams that um we haven't really talked about. I mean, Aston Martin, we saw Lance Stroll go out again with another DNF to a clutch issue. A clutch issue. Um, so I think they're just like ready for their new car to be shipped to Hungary. So it'll be very interesting to see that. Alonso finished 2 laps down, way behind the Cadillacs with Bottas. So it's uh, just not the most exciting spot for the Astons to be in at this point. But um, outside of that, I feel like we've hit a lot of the notes. If you have any final teams to talk,
Just an angle from Aston Martin. I caught a glimpse of Adrian Newey. He had hands folded. He was looking up to the sky, and I could read his lips. He was just saying, "Beam me up, Scotty," just over and over again. So I think he wants out.
yeah, after releasing and driving the RB17 like hypercar that he designed for Red Bull, and then going to the circuit to the current Aston Martin, he probably was ready to go.
Mm, yeah, that man, such a tough one. Like, and it's crazy, like how, and I'm no like hater or lover. He was just part of the story of Red Bull's success.
Right.
I think it's crazy how just like unmentioned he is now. Like people will point at him and be like, "Yo, is he just, the development goat, this, that, or the other?" And now he just has him and the team. Like, it's not all on him, obviously. Like, there were
Right.
like the
Yeah.
battery issues and stuff like this, but now it's just like, okay, we don't. He's just like middling. We don't talk about him.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was like potentially the biggest signing of the off season, and then he like the team has just been nowhere. So I am really intrigued to see how much changes with the new package that they bring this coming weekend. I think that that's gonna be. I mean, it's got to bring them into contention some, but they're still like so far behind. The front running teams, especially like even like I said last week, if it gives them 2 seconds of pace a lap, they're still P21 and P22 behind the Cadillacs. Even if with
Mhm.
2 additional seconds, they'd still be in the same spot. So hopefully the car will bring a little bit more than they're expecting to pull them up the field, but don't bank on the Fernando Alonso win next week. Don't put your money on it.
Unless you have, you know, unless you're high in conspiratorial thinking, then it may be the angle for you.
If I still will stick to the fact that Fernando Alonso's only win this season will be the Lego race. I don't see it panning out any other way.
That's fair. That's totally fair. But yeah, I don't think there's really anything like of note. Some of these teams just stuck in development hell. Drivers are just stuck in the development hell. So yeah, until morale improves, we can write off some of those teams. We give a big condolences to Cadillac. You know, they had a DNF, so unfortunate for them on their rise to becoming a full Formula One team. So that was tough for them. But yeah, other than that, I'm not sure there's anything like of note really.
Yeah, I think that kind of wraps out the conversation here for the Belgian Grand Prix. We had Kimi Antonelli P1, Charles Leclerc P2, and Max Verstappen P3. And then in the driver's standings, like we mentioned, Kimi Antonelli still out front, but Lewis Hamilton jumping George Russell to P2 in the standings, with Charles Leclerc not too far behind George at this point. But still plenty of good battles in the grid for those drivers and constructors standings. The Racing Bulls have caught up to Alpine and tied them on points for the season. So there's a bunch of like small fights kind of across the grid here.
Yeah, I have a feeling that once we're back from the break after Hungary, I have a strong feeling that the complexion of the season is going to change a lot. I have this feeling that like Ferrari dominance is going to rise. The Racing Bulls Alpine angle, I think that's going to heat up. I think that's going to get really interesting. And yeah, like can Mercedes hold off these lions? Like Ferrari and Red Bull are, they're nipping at their heels. So yeah, like I said, I think after the summer break, there are some storylines that could make the season like get pretty spicy. Where it started off, we thought it was going to be like pretty mild. We didn't know,
Oh yeah.
what was going to happen. It's seeming to be pretty all right.
Yeah, I can't complain there, and the fact that there are so many different storylines to keep an eye out for just means that we do have a decently competitive season. It's not competitive with the whole grid being squished down to a second of each other in qualifying, but we are looking at a lot of like very close battles and things to keep an eye on as we get later in the season. Um, and yeah, I think the Mercedes. Front running. It seems like these other teams prefer to be the chaser instead of being chased after. So Ferrari and Red Bull both kind of trying to bring it up.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Where maybe a few races ago, you just would have felt like, oh, it's just a Mercedes gear. Just kind
Yeah,
of lock it up. But yeah, like you said, it's not an assured position right now for Mercedes, and I think that makes it interesting.
yeah, definitely close and a lot of racing and battling to go. But we've got the Hungarian Grand Prix coming up next week. So we have the hot seat episode for the Hungarian Grand Prix.
I've got 3 questions. Multiple choice answers will be provided for you here, Aaron. Let's see how well you know the Hungarian Grand Prix. Are you ready to get into the hot seat?
Yep. Let's jump right in.
Very cool. Question number 1. The Hungarian Grand Prix has been dominated by which constructor by almost double the wins? Is it A, Red Bull? Is it B, Mercedes? Or is it C, McLaren?
I will go C McLaren.
You are correct. I believe they have 13 victories at the Hungarian Grand Prix. The next, I believe, is I think it's like 7. So McLaren just dominating. Question number 2. A circuit that has had its fair share of maiden victories, but who did not win their first race here? Is it A, Jenson Button, B, Esteban Ocon, or C, Daniel Ricciardo?
Uh, I'm gonna go C Daniel Ricciardo.
You are correct. His first win was the Canada Grand Prix, I believe. I think it's 2014 for him.
All right, there we go. 2 for 2.
Question number 3. What year did Michael Schumacher clinch his 4th World Championship title here in Hungary? Was it A, 99, B, 2001, or C, 2005?
B 2001.
Ding, ding, ding. We've got a 3 for 3. A full
right.
Monty.
Woo.
2001 is correct.
There we go. It had to happen at some point. I was due.
Had to happen eventually, and yeah, it's fitting. It's fitting that we finally got a hot seat from the producers that didn't have any dumb movie related bonus questions. You know.
Those are always fun. I need the bonus points usually, so I had to get 3 from 3 here without the extra points available.
Solid hot seat. Yeah, the Hungarian Grand Prix, it's actually an interesting one. Started like was like being held as a mainstay like only 1985 as well. So got introduced actually like during the Cold War, which I think is like kind of interesting. That's a Bernie Ecclestone like oneer for you there. So he gets a circuit back like into basically like into rotation. I think the first one's 86. So yeah, in terms of like circuits and races that we go to on the regular, this tends like kind of modern, right? Where I mean, think of those constructors: McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull. Like Red Bull, that's just a hyper modern team, and McLaren
And
and Mercedes,
too, yeah.
you know, they're all like really modern. The kind of older team names that you would hear, like Benetton, Lotus, like teams like this, they're, you know, kind of nowhere in sight. So I thought that was an interesting angle where a couple of the drivers whose names come up all the time, like Senna won here a bunch. I think Prost won here a bunch as well. So it is kind of in the like, it's basically in the like Schumacher era of Formula One where it kind of really gets into its heyday. So yeah, I think the Hungarian Grand Prix is an interesting one from like a bit of a historical angle. But here's what people won't tell you: it's just a second Monaco. Where you qualify is usually where you finish.
That's fair. I do enjoy this circuit as well. Like Monaco, having just some pretty cool sections. The castle section is no, I am mixing things up with Azerbaijan with the castle, but yes, Hungarian Grand Prix usually is not the most overtaking circuit.
But for all my Saturday freaks out there, you know, we'll have something to enjoy.
Yeah, we'll have some good racing ahead. But with the hot seat out, we'll slide into the cool down lap here, and we've got the rose thorn and seed for you this week. So Justin, why don't you hit me with your rose thorn and seed?
So I'll start with my rose, and I won't take too long. I would love to gush, but I'm not gonna gush. We went with a pretty sizable group, a pretty uncommon group. We went to go see the Odyssey on Sunday. We went to go see
Nice.
it in IMAX. My man, I was like vibrating when I came out of that movie and that theater. The IMAX was like, it was truly an experience. So yeah, that was just a fun event. Got to spend the evening with the homies. Got to make a new friend. So that was really fun. So yeah, my rose here for the week is getting to see the long anticipated Nolan release, The Odyssey. So that was really fun. My
Nice.
thorn here, I've got a little bit of summer blues, and I'll tell you why. My schedule just keeps getting wrecked, and it's like really tough. You want to be friendly, you want to be kind, but yeah, sometimes these last minute vacations can be, good for some. What's good for the goose may not necessarily be good for the gander, let's just say that. And then my seed here, this has been an interesting one. May not be something you'd expect.
Hmm.
I've been doing some theology studying on the side, a little bit of extracurricular activity. I've been studying the Bible. I've been encountering some biblical stories, trying to familiarize myself with the ideas. And it's been rather interesting. I've definitely enjoyed it. And I think it will be useful in the long run, which is why it's my seed. I'm not just, trying to brag to you or anything, but it has seemed like valuable information to learn about. So that's why it's my seed here.
Gotcha. Any particular like point that led you to start doing the research? Are you doing like studying other religions as well down the road, or is it primarily a biblical theology study?
I have a feeling that it will lead to studying other religions, or at least just like other cultures,
Hmm.
because here's the angle. I read a book called The Immortality Key, and it presents a ridiculously compelling argument that some religious imagery and symbolism can be traced back to Greeks using hallucinogens, and that becoming a basis for uh basically like beatific imagery and like stories that get put into foundational texts of civilization. There's a really
Hmm.
compelling argument to be made that that likely came from like some type of hallucinogen very, very early in like man's history.
I saw that. That's actually pretty interesting. I recently saw something. I think there's a Netflix show that I'll have to find for you that might be coming out. I think it might be Seth Rogen even, but talking about in ancient depictions of like the forbidden fruit from the Adam and Eve story being a mushroom versus like an apple. So I think that's a pretty interesting reason to be digging into it. I wasn't sure if you had some other come to Jesus moment, but that is interesting then looking back and kind of um, looking at the text in a different light to kind of piece that together.
Yeah, and very similar to the Odyssey, these stories are foundational to, just Western culture in general. And I feel like in studying narrative, just like through films, and I've been reading a little bit more, even things like Dune, the Dune novels have like a very deep, kind of religious, hell, I would even call them overtones. Very, very complex religious systems exist in the Dune book. So I have a feeling to understand some more like complex narratives or like style types,
Yeah,
having a familiarization with the Bible could be helpful. So yeah.
That makes sense. And like, well, in Dune, it is like a fictional almost evolution of like Christian religion. Like they talk about like Catholicism basically and like the old Bible and things like that throughout. So yeah, definitely an interesting study. I took a religious studies class in college that talked about Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity, and so I think it's definitely like good to experience other cultures, religions, and kind of understand where people are coming from. So very cool. Um,
I'm interested to hear what do you've got for us for the week.
yeah. So my rose this week, the past weekend, I was on a bachelor party trip down in Tennessee. So got to see some friends I hadn't seen in a bit. Got to meet some new guys who are all very very friendly. It was a good group. But one of the things we got to do was clay pigeon shooting, which I had not done before. Shooting the clay discs. This was a like decked out gun range, like outdoors, with all these different stations where you're shooting across all different terrains. The clay pigeons are being tossed from all different areas and angles. They had little like ramps and fun stuff to make it interesting. I probably hit like 25% accuracy, so I'm not very good. But it was fun, and like getting past the initial nerves of shooting a shotgun for the first time was definitely um, took a couple rounds, but it was a fun experience overall. And once I kind of settled in, it was pretty fun.
That's awesome. Very nice. Hey, 25%. I feel like that's way better than I would do.
And there were some streaks in there where I would get a few in a row and then just like hit nothing for a bit. So overall, really fun weekend. Like I said, got to meet some good guys that I hadn't before, and we'll look forward to seeing them at the wedding down the line here. My thorn this week was just with being away the last weekend and all, and the amount of rain that we've gotten recently. My grass was a bear to take on Saturday. It like my lawnmower kept choking out on the grass. I had to like I was trying to truck through it because it was supposed to rain, and I'm like trying to rush to beat the rain, and so it was not the easiest of yard work days to catch up after a couple weeks, but not the biggest of thorns. And then my seed is just Colleen and I are starting to put together our plans for a trip this fall. We're nothing solidified yet, but I enjoy figuring out where we're gonna go and what we want to do and see. So I'm looking forward to that as we go. But from you talking about the Odyssey, that's definitely on my list to see in IMAX too. Just to bring it back there for a second, I like have seen all of the different images of like what it looks like in certain theaters versus the 70 millimeter IMAX, and I'm like there's a theater close enough. I should just go to see it there. So I will most likely check that off before too long.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it was definitely a powerful experience. So I hope you get to see it in IMAX. I feel like that was just awesome. So I hope you get that opportunity. But yeah, that's the flavor, or not the flavor of the week. That's the cool down lap with the rose, thorn, and seed for you there.
Yeah, and of course, as always, that brings us here to the end of the episode. So we've got the Hungarian Grand Prix coming up next weekend, so we'll have another episode of the podcast next weekend as well. And we really appreciate you guys spending time with us.
Like Aaron said, Hungarian Grand Prix coming up, but inside of that, new episodes after every Formula One event. So stay tuned after every race. Come and see what the Tire Boys got cooking for you. We'll look forward to seeing you after Hungary. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you. Peace out, everyone.
See ya.